When Bigmode announced Animal Well as their first game, I knew I would give it a shot. Dunkey's my favorite YouTuber, so of course I'm going to support his new publishing company. But then the early reviews came in and compared the game to Tunic and Outer Wilds, and I said, I've played both of those in the past year. Even made a video on one and wrote the script for the other. Hint, hint. But yeah, Animal Well seemed like a perfect fit for me with this channel, so let me tell you about my experience with the first ever well-type game. Very minor spoilers ahead. I'll only mention items that were shown off in the trailer, and will keep details of my journey enticingly vague. That way, you can get the full Animal Well experience yourself. So Animal Well is a metroidvania, and to all my non-gamers watching out there, this is an action-adventure subgenre that takes its design inspiration from, you guessed it, Metroid and Castlevania. You have a large, interconnected 2D world to explore, with access to new areas often blocked off until you acquire a specific item or upgrade that allows you to progress. These upgrades are usually permanent too, so you can go back to previous areas you visited with your new skills and explore even further. Let's give some examples of upgrades you'll find in popular Metroidvanias and what you can do with them. Ice Beam. Freeze enemies. Mantis Claw. Wall Jump. Soul of Bat. Bat. You don't even need to be familiar with these games to see how these items would be useful. Well, maybe the bat isn't as obvious, but you just have to trust me on that one. Now let's take a look at some of the items from Animal Well. Yo-Yo. Bubble Wand. Disc. Which is just a frisbee, but I played disc golf once. I know about the lingo. The point is, the applications here aren't as obvious. You might think, okay, we've got a melee weapon, a ranged weapon, and a shield, right? No. Animal Well does not have combat. So rather than arm yourself with the prize corner from Chuck E. Cheese, you use your unconventional items to solve puzzles, interact with animals, and traverse the well in unique ways. And this is where the soul of Animal Well lies. Every time you acquire a new item, you slowly start to see its potential and how it can be used in multiple ways. You'll usually see its primary use right off the bat, but then you'll be in a puzzle room and go, I wonder. Then you experiment with the game's mechanics, you pull off a big brain move, that Steam achievement pops up in the corner, and you feel really good about yourself. As you progress in the game, you'll wind up with a multitude of tools at your disposal, which gives you some leeway in how you solve puzzles. Sure, you could solve a puzzle with 2 items, but if you're skilled enough, maybe you can pull it off with 1. Animal Well really excels in this aspect, and at times it even feels like you're performing some sequence breaks, but that's just how the game is designed. The last thing you want in a Metroidvania is for it to feel too linear, where yet you could explore in a non-linear fashion, but there's really only one path to actually progress. With Animal Well, you never feel that way. There are so many paths to take, and you'll be rewarded for exploring and being creative with your item usage. I won't get into the layout of the map or the objective of the game, as figuring that out on your own is part of the appeal, just like with Tunic and Outer Wilds. I'll say that the main objective of Animal Well isn't as cryptic as those games, and I saw something early on that reminded me of a different Metroidvania, so I had a good idea what shape my journey would take. Again, no spoilers, so I can't get into the specifics of my journey, but I can break down my playtime into chunks like I did with Tunic. As of recording, I've played Animal Well for 10 hours across 4 roughly equal play sessions. My first play session was filled with that initial wonder that comes from starting a new game. You get used to the controls, learn how the game presents its information, and feel excited because you're encountering what the game world has to offer for the first time. I ended up going to bed later than expected that first night because I couldn't put the game down. I was so engrossed in this world. The pixel art style, the color palette, the soothing music, the occasional animal sounds, it all makes for an atmosphere that I could best describe as otherworldly. It's not necessarily chilling, but maybe slightly unsettling, but in a peaceful way. You're this tiny goo thing in a large unknown world that's basically a dark, wet cave system. It reminded me of an old train ride that I saw in a Disneyland history book as a kid. Becoming an Imagineer was my dream job at the time, and I would just stare at pictures like this and be transported to a world that I would never get to experience. My childhood self can rest easy now, because Animal Well is that world. Now, let's move on to my second play session. The initial awe had worn off, but I was constantly getting new items and finding secrets, all while making good progress on the main objective. I really can't say much here, as this was the meat of the game, but know that it was mostly good vibes, with only a couple of moments I had to try multiple times at to succeed. Animal Well is pretty forgiving with deaths and save points, which I appreciate. I reached the end credits on my third session at around the 6-hour mark overall. It was a satisfying end to the main story, but I knew that there was still a ton of secrets left to uncover. I still needed to go back and revisit areas with all my new items, so I set out to find every nook and cranny in the well. And man, this map is dense. Just about every room has something hidden in it, but then you find another new item to use, and you go, wait, I can do that now? And suddenly, your mind is open to a whole new realm of possibilities. You come to realize just how much content is stuffed into this game. And so I continued on with my exploration for a fourth play session until reaching what I will call the fulfillment point. I had revisited every area of the game, to my knowledge, realized I only had 2/3 of the secret collectibles, and said, alright, I'm good. See, I used to be more of a completionist, but sometimes when trying to uncover every last secret or do every side quest in a game, it can feel like you're just checking things off a to-do list. I'm more self-aware now, and know when a game starts to feel that way, I should probably stop playing it for the time being. I did this with Celeste, Hollow Knight, and Pokemon Legends Arceus in recent years, and I did eventually come back to them to add to my experience. I intend to do the same with Animal Well, but for right now, I can say that I got all that I hoped for from the game and feel fulfilled. It's charming, it's distinct, it's fun. If you came here looking for a recommendation, go play it. But before you go, massive shout out to Billy Basso, who was the sole developer of Animal Well. He let me visit Disneyland circa 1960, and I am very grateful for that. And of course, shout out to Dunkey, Leah, and the rest of Bigmode for an awesome publishing debut. You all were an inspiration for me starting this channel, so thanks for always keeping it real. Now, you know what game you have to publish next, right? Hey, we're talking Knack 3, baby! Alright, go play Animal Well.